This story continues from days 8 and 9. Day 10. Allure. Alone now, the traveller searched for more stones. Here and there he would find one, much larger again, and his progress seemed to stall. The end of the path seemed further than ever. He wished to sleep. He wished not to be alone. A cry went up from the bird on the horizon. The man saw it beat its wings, hopping from foot to foot. It was watching something. The traveller returned to his task. He did not want to search anymore. He did not want to dig and carry. Whenever he allowed his mind to drift, he had to force himself to come back to the path he had lain, and it was never as long as he remembered. But he could not stay here. He breathed in will and started sifting through the dull sand once more. The bird shrieked once more. Forgetting at once his desire to focus, the man looked up to the creature in the distance. Then, one of the trees, black fingers reaching up, caught his eye. Some of its branches were moving differently. In fact, the others were not moving at all. There was no wind in this place. He saw they were not branches. They were the skeletal limbs of some awful being. Black as the shadowed trees, it had perhaps been there all along, watching him. He looked at the other trees and started to see more of them, roosting, waiting. The branches were full of them. He turned back to the sand and heard a rustling thump. He dared not look again at the tree, hoping against everything that it was not what he thought. But he did look, and it was as he feared. As though affronted at having been seen and then ignored, one of the creatures had hopped down from its perch. It turned its long blade of a head from side to side, pointing each of its dot eyes at him. The head was the widest part of the whole being, its back, pointed legs and clawed wings all as narrow as each other and covered in lumps and burrs. It moved its pole-like limbs through the sand, which seemed grey now in comparison, swaying side to side, never turning away from the traveller. It moved in a wide arc off to one side, keeping its distance, both watching the other, until it came around behind him. It met the path. For the first time since descending to the ground, the creature took its marble eyes off the man and turned them, left, then right, then left, to the stone at its clawed feet. The man didn't know what to do. The thing was at least as big as him, but it also seemed to be harmless. He waited. The black creature ducked its sharp beak to the slab, apparently unsure as to what it was. He tucked the tip under one edge and lifted the stone an inch. "Ho!" shouted the man, waving his arms. He suddenly felt a father's protectiveness for this cold volcanic glass. The thing hopped backwards, opening its maw silently. They eyed each other. Neither moved. The creature looked back to the stone, hopped back to it. The allure was too strong. The traveller was like stone. The thing stuck its bill back under the rim. "No!" cried the traveller and dashed forward. "Be gone!" The creature jumped back again and took flight, the rods it had for wings seemingly enough in this place. It turned a full circle in the sky as the man reached the troubled stone before returning to the branches of a tree. The trees broiled, and here and there, more of the things dropped to the ground, heads twitching. The traveller stood somewhere in the middle of his creation now, and the beings fanned out on both sides, 2 or 3 on the wing, and began surrounding both path and builder. They were keeping their distance, but the man readied himself. One of the things, it could have been the one he had already scared off, keenest of all to try again, reached a stone almost at the beginning of the path. The man hopped towards it, and before he got anywhere near it, the thing hopped away, whilst others reached stones later in the path. They were toying with him. With rage, he ran down his path, howling at the top of his lungs, using all the words he kept from his mother. The creatures would scatter and regroup, return to the path, then scatter again, the cycle shortening each time. Like a fish on a hook, he could feel himself tiring. So could they. One of them flipped a stone some way off. The man retreated towards the beginning of the way. He struck out at one that flew closer than ever, but it turned out of the way with ease. They were moving towards him, shifting his stones, forming gangs, pushing him back. One of them was only one slab away now. It snapped its bill and flailed its wings. The man put up his fists out of instinct, but he had nowhere near the reach of his opponent. He felt some sand on his stone between his toes, felt it move, or had he imagined it? Either way, he saw then the reality before him. These things outnumbered him, but the grains of sand dwarfed them all. He scooped up a handful and threw it in the creature's eyes. It made a sound for the first time, a deep guttural gurgle, echoed by one or two others, and a distant cry from the golden bird. More of the creatures, frantic, angry, came at him and were sent stumbling and retching as he flung black sand at each in turn. As he span and cursed, he barely noticed the sand shifting, spouting, spraying with him. The dunes became an extension of his being, as together they roiled and raged, throwing the black nightmares up, swallowing them down. He felt grains caress his face, his arms aching, his chest heaving. The creatures were gone. His path lay mangled and crooked before him, but looking up at him was a familiar face in the sand.